Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. 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 Once more. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Bring home, everybody. Om. And again.
Thank you, Alaudin. Thank you, Yashakur. Urs Mubarak, everyone. Such gratitude to PIR MOINEDDIN. Moin, some of us called him Moin. Let's start with the invocation toward the One, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of Guidance. Let's see, let me look on screen and see who's here. I see Zubin Noor. Would you recite for us in Dutch?
Tot de ene, de volmaaktheid van liefde, harmonie en schoonheid, het enige wezen, verenigd met alle verlichte zielen die de belichaming vormen van meesterschap, de geest van leiding.
Amen. Thank you. I see Shamsia and Halim want to recite for us in Welsh.
Tia Gatarine, perfeithrwydd cariad cydgod a prydferddwch, yr unig fod, yn un a holl yn neidiau gwledig, sy'n ffurfio'n gyforiad a meister, ysbryd a weniad.
Amen. Latif, Juanita, do you want to recite Espanol?
Hacia el uno, la perfección del amor, la armonía y la belleza, el único ser, unidos a todas las almas iluminadas que forman la manifestación del Maestro, el Espíritu Guía. Amén.
Amen. Something I missed? Anyone else?
Hawaiian.
Oh, yes. Go right ahead, Rahmana.
Aloha. I ke akua. Ka mea pono loa o ke aloha, lo kahi, a me kanani. O ke kanaka wale no. Hui pu me na ohane ola a pao loa. Ke ia ano I ka ho'olala o ka haku. Ka ohane o ke alakai.
Thank you so much. Naturally, for me, it's a special day both ways because it's Moine's 25th URS. That means I've been in this post 25 years. When I first showed up, not till 1969, Murshid said to us again and again and again that when he'd first met MOINEDDIN, he'd seen a Sufi symbol on his forehead, and that he was certain that MOINEDDIN would be his successor. There was no question about that for us. And some of you know that in 1970, in summer of 1970, Moines had the beginning of kidney disease, ended up going into the hospital. And what was amazing to me was that MOINEDDIN being, PIR MOINEDDIN being Murshid Sam's #1 disciple, it was like his son. And Murshid didn't visit him in the hospital. And so I know this story because Murshid told it to me when he landed in New York City. I had to go back to New York City to help my father with a hip operation, and Murshid was coming to teach for 5 weeks. This is September of 1970, and pick him up at the airport. He asked me if I could be his attendant for those 5 weeks, which was an enormous blessing. And when he landed, he told me the story that finally he was guided to go in to visit MOINEDDIN. I believe Murshid Wali Ali was with him, not Murshid at the time, but his esoteric secretary. And Murshid, when he told me this story, told it in a dramatic...
It was actually me, dear.
Oh, okay, wonderful. So you can add to this. So he told
I was in the room.
Okay, good. Excellent. Okay, so you can all add to this. So here's what he told me. So I was not in the room, but I got the full brunt of his storytelling. He imitated himself when he said, when I walked in, I started yelling at him at the top of my lungs and said, get the hell out of the... I'm not imitating him now, but it was very... get the hell out of this bed. You want a job in the mattress factory? You have a mission. You have a wife and children. Get out of this bed. You think you're going to heaven? You're going straight to hell. He says, if you don't get out of this bed, I'm going to beat you with my Zen stick. I don't care if the police come and take me. There's MOINEDDIN lying there, you know. And Murshid, after telling me that story, said to me, this is more a story now about Murshid than MOINEDDIN. He said, this was the most difficult assignment I had in my whole life. From what I understand, from that day forward, Moine started to claim his life and come back in, came out of the hospital. But we came back from New York and traveling Boston, etc., Cambridge. It was just after Thanksgiving, so beginning of December, and so during that period in December, Murshid was teaching us, and then he had started a men's dance class for a handful of us, for 8 of us on Monday mornings, and it was Sunday night, December 27th, myself and Murshid's treasurer, Halim, slept on the living room floor of the Mentor Garden. And that morning, the Monday the 28th, he fell down the stairs, got a concussion. And then, I don't want to tell that story too much because it's about Moine, but some 15 days later, Murshid Sam left the body. and there was Moin. And I remember, and Saul can tell this part of the story, I remember being in the hallway of the hospital where Murshid had died, and there was Moin. You know, his hair was cut short, still from the hospital, and still quite gaunt and weak. And Saul kind of taking him, not physically, but, taking him energetically and saying, Moin, come on, take it. It's your turn now. Come and lead us. And Moin was those first 10 years an extraordinary leader, and I had the pleasure of going to MOINEDDIN and Fatima's house once a week. I had done that with Murshid, and so I continued it. I asked Moin if I could come and be like a secretary to him and an assistant, and I'd helped him lead the dance meetings and so on. But I wanted to just share you this postcard because it gives you a glimpse into how much he could put into a little teeny tiny postcard. I'm hoping you can all. I'll read it aloud. But I had to go again back to New York to serve my parents. Dear Shabda, Assalamu Alaikum. Today is the day you're usually here doing the doidi woik. And the news you sent is so wonderful. I'm going to wait till you get back, and then you can write a letter and reply to yourself for me. How's that? Seder tonight with our beautiful Elijahs and Murshid's robes, angels singing, ooh, and the tremendous walks of Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad. See you soon, inshallah. And already there's a new choir song. Yeah. So I don't want to take too much time now. We have so many people who knew MOINEDDIN really well, and give them a chance to share. And in the middle of the program, we're going to get a slideshow from our dear Murshida Fatima. So let's start with our Hakim, Saladin.
Unmute. Well, salam alaikum, and thanks for inviting me. Let me just start out by saying that part of the story that Shabda told shows a bit of memory. And Murshid asked me to drive him to see MOINEDDIN in the hospital. And when we got there, he was in bed and flat on his back, totally debilitated. I don't think he had enough energy to lift his hand. And Murshid started screaming at him, get out of that bed. You've got a wife and family and responsibilities. How dare you do this to me? And I watched this guy who had no energy attempt to raise himself off the bed. It was one of the most powerful moments of my memories of him. And Murshid saw this and went, that's enough. Okay, I just wanted to see if you were willing. Ya Allah, Allah, Allah. So for me, he was a true murid and an ideal that all of us could learn to follow. Ameen. Now, I should also say that he was my original Gotha reader when I lived with Danny Lomax in Novato, California. And then when I moved to San Francisco, Wally Ollie was my Gotha reader. So I got the two heavyweights reading Gathas to me. And I will always remember MOINEDDIN for one thing. He sent Ananda to me. And 40 some years later, we are still together. And so it was probably one of the great gifts that I would say he's given. Anyway, I will close off by saying that one of his practices that he continuously led in my presence was the 3 wazifas. And since I'm a great believer in the transmission through physical presence, I would like to do the 3 wazifas now. And in his honor, in his memory, and inshallah, with his transmission. Please join me. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar. 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 Allah, Jai MOINEDDIN. I hope somebody else will mention this, but he loved Ramnam, which is how we started. And he would lead it at 6 o'clock in the morning at his house. And there would be a crowd of people showing up to do Ramnam with him at 6 in the morning at his house. Anyway, thanks for doing Ramnam, Alauddin. And I will close. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. May his memory be blessed.
Thank you, Hakeem. Thank you. So we did prepare. MOINEDDIN was one of the most beautiful singers. His father was a choir director, so he had that blessing as a child to learn choral music. And we all sang together in the Sufi choir. I was in the bass section with him, but he had the very most beautiful voice, so melodic. And so Shakti has prepared a little video with some pictures of him and him singing Om Namah Shivaya. So let's listen to that.
Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya. Namah Shivaya.
Hadi Om. Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's go to Yasmin Spiegel. Some of you may not know Yasmin, but she became Mercer's disciple early in 1968, long before I showed up, and knew him in a period where maybe he still looked like a professor before he had the long hair. And so let's hear from Yasmin.
I'm really so pleased to be here. But I will say that I know that many of you probably knew Moinedin better than I did. But what I have is just the early memories. I met Murshid Sam when I was 19 in February of 1968, when we would go and gather at the Mentor Garden in San Francisco and sit on the floor of his living room upstairs. And one of the things that was always so impressive to me was to see the Volkswagen van that was arriving from the beach. I believe Fatima can correct me. I think it was Bolinas that had Moinedin, Fatima, Jayanara, and Hassan. And they had driven all the way in from the beach to San Francisco to be at Murshid's house. You know, we were all coming in, you know, every night, but their drive was really impressive. And Murshid never made uh, any, there was never any question that Moinedin was his successor. And he would visibly lighten up when the bus showed up and these wonderful students of his would pile out, and then they'd come upstairs. And, you know, Moinedin was always, at least from my perspective, taller than everybody else. And, you know, he would come in the room and Murshid would just beam at him. That picture that was part of the uh, collage that Shakti just showed us showed a picture of Moinedin with his arm around Murshid, and that you know period of his life, short hair, professor looking, but that absolute beaming look of his joy when Moinedin came. There was a point where Moinedin had gotten sick. And it was very stressful because, you know, at least from my perspective, we were all young and there wasn't anybody who had any serious illness. And yet here was Moinedin, who was seriously ill and in the hospital. And there was a point where we understood that it was his kidney disease. And he had to do dialysis in order to take care of cleansing his blood because his kidneys weren't working anymore. And there was a point where he had described that the experience of having to stick himself several times a week with this needle, which then would transfuse his blood to take the impurities out. And he said he had to use it as a spiritual practice, like, you know, surrendering to the pain and enabling his blood to be purified. And that was such a powerful message for me, that he had taken on this illness as a spiritual practice. And it was for me very, very impressive. Um, Pir Shabda mentioned that his voice was beautiful, and it really it had a warmth and a resonance and a purity that was different and undeniable from our perspective. And we were so proud of the Sufi choir because that was all our friends, and you know, Alauddin had made it into this very, very beautiful thing. And there was always Moinedin's voice that was soaring above everybody else. I just remember hearing that he had finally gotten a kidney transplant and feeling what a miracle it was that he was going to be able to move past this period in his life, and really, really praying that this was going to give him the health that he deserved to have. There was a point after Murshid died that I moved to Tucson to be with Abdurrahman and Nasima, and then on to Lama Foundation. And I wasn't present in the Bay Area, so I'm going to let other people tell the other stories. But to this day, I can't hear his voice without having shivers because of what a powerful, beautiful, pure person that he was.
Thank you so much, Yasmin. And I want to, shout out loud that the picture you referred to was taken by Mansour Johnson. I saw Mansour's here on, and Mansour somehow was the only one of us who had the wherewithal and the consciousness to photograph Murshid. So many of the photographs we have of Murshid Sam, thanks to Mansour Johnson and old friend of Moineddin's. So thank you. Shout out to you, Mansour. Just to put a little more story in between, that we were just a little group in San Francisco, 160 people. That's all. That's how we started, and gradually we went to different places. First to Oregon, to Tucson, to Seattle, and so on, and gradually. But we were a big, happy family with PIR Vilayat Khan, and there was even a time at Woodstock camp, I think it was 1974, where PIR Vilayat took his slippers and his hat and put them on Moineddin's head as a kind of, to me, a symbol that Moineddin could be his successor. But then by 1977, 78, PIR Vilayat asked us to leave and start our own group. We got thrown out. And Moineddin, who was an extraordinary peacemaker, worked so hard to try. He kept saying, make us a dervish order within the order. Let's not continue this karma of splitting up. But we did split up, and then now it was Moin's job to be our peer, or uniquely not under the umbrella of the at that time Sufi order. By 1980, he got his first kidney transplant. He moved to Hawaii. It was, that was a powerful and a challenging period, because at that point, email hadn't started, and to have someone who was leading a group that was centered in San Francisco, 5,000 miles away was, or whatever it is, 3,000 miles away was powerful. Then email came, and Moineddin, who was one of the world's best letter writers, just like his teacher, Murshid Samuel Lewis, now had a medium to communicate with. And then that kidney failed, and by 1990, he got another kidney, and then that one worked. And that was a period where he nursemaided us through the Federation of the Sufi Message, and he was such a powerful voice in that. And I think that's really where we began to call him Pir Moineddin. So I'm going to stop there and invite Mariam to speak. Murshida Mariam.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Great to be here in this place of remembrance, and attune ourselves to beloved Moineddin. I want to talk about a couple of his lineage gifts that he gave to all of us. One is the Southwest Sufi community. He had an inspiration that there needed to be a place of refuge on the planet for all people, not just our Sufi family, for all people. And so let's give 11 Ya Fatahs to that lineage gift. Ya Fatah, Ya Fatah. Ya Fatah, 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 Ya Fatah. And may his vision that inspired him, it's coming to fruition in such beautiful ways. So alhamdulillah, and to hold any place, our hearts, the homes we all live in, as place of refuge for all beings. The other lineage gift he gave us is Sufi soul work. And so I'd like to talk about the first time I met MOINEDDIN and I received initiation. And I said, Moin, I just can't pray like that. And he said, I think this is for all of us, Mariam, I don't care how you pray. I care that you pray. And so this still is very meaningful to me. So if you wish to join me, I know some of you of the accommodation of the heart as the extended soul work invocation. Toward the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the message in our time, the mystery, the miracle, the mother, the spirit of guidance. He also opened publicly our order after he and Murshid Kabir, who passed a few years ago, had a talk about homosexuality and the different iterations of sexuality, opening and blessing and receiving without judgment any choices that we in our human family might make. So let's close with Ishq Allah, Mabud Allah, starting on the left shoulder, creating the crescent moon, Ishq Allah, and into the heart as that flame of light. Mahbud Allah, Ishq Allah, Mahbud Allah, Ishq Allah, Mahbud Allah. Two more times. Ishq Allah, Mahbud Allah. Once more. Ishq Allah, Mahbud Allah. Alhamdulillah. Thank you for being on this journey with this person, and alhamdulillah. Thank you, Pir Shabda.
Thank you. So one of my favorite parts is coming now with Murshida Fatima, new Moinuddin, and probably better than any of us, longer than any of us, and in ways, So, and not only that, Fatima is a great archivist of photographs, and so she's going to give us a little slideshow and hopefully share some words.
Okay. Hello. I can't get this full size. How do I do that now? Oh dear.
It looks great.
No, it's not good enough. There we go. Yeah, that's better. Actually, I'm as I get older, I'm getting very disorganized, and so I didn't ever really get these in the order that I planned to talk about. So as they come up, I'll just say what I'm going to say. One thing about Carl, that was his name, the name he was born with, was that his parents were not very encouraging with their children to develop their gifts. His father was busy. He was the music teacher at the high school, and also at church he was the choir director. And although Moinuddin had perfect pitch and could play instruments, he was never really encouraged to do any of those things. So he never developed them as a career. He went. We lived in Iowa. He was. He liked Borgwards, and that was the first one he bought. Actually, the first car that he bought was an English Ford, and it didn't even make it home from the used car lot before it fell apart. So he went back and traded in for a Borgward. Later in California, he found another one. This is a farmhouse that we were renting. Here's his mother and father. He was born in Bonne Terre, Missouri. And this is his senior class picture. My goodness, how did that happen? I have no idea. Well, that's a lovely picture of him, but that's not the one I wanted to show you. Actually, this is our son, and when he was born, he came out ready to play. If you can imagine a 1-day-old baby playing, that was our son. He was actually late, so I think that's one of the reasons. This is our son during the first week of his life. MOINEDDIN did not have a career or a job ever. Well, for 6 weeks he worked as a tile setter in Iowa. He said he was slow, but he did poor work. And then his next job, out of 15 years of marriage, was at a natural food store, New Age Natural Foods. And Hassan Hertz told me, when he was at the cashier, he was so slow that there was a huge line across the entire store because he had to have every bill lined up just right and going the same direction. Anyway, he wasn't the type of person that could have a job, and I never even considered it an option that he have a job. And not only did he not have a job outside the home, but he didn't have one inside the home either. And he only changed out of 2 children, 1 diaper, 1 time, and that was his diaper when I had 104 fever, and I passed out and he heard the thump, and he got up, and I woke up on the floor, and I heard him say over me, "Oh, thank God, I thought you dropped the baby." But in fact, I was the one who dropped, and so he changed that diaper, and done, and that was the first one. Okay. Murshid said, the only excuse for missing a spiritual meeting was to make money. And that is the kind of statement that might be said 50 years from then or 2,000 years from then. And it was only said to a specific group of people. These men all didn't have jobs. And that's why he said that. And Mansour had just gotten a job as a painter, and he was saying he couldn't make the meeting. And Murshid said, that's the only excuse for missing it, is to make money. What the people around Sam, the young men, did the exact opposite of what they do in the Far East. In the Far East, you study and get a career, then you find a wife, then you have a family, and after you've raised the family and the children on their own, you go on a spiritual quest. These young men around Sam all started with the spiritual quest, then they had children, then they got married, and then they realized they didn't have a career or any way to make money. So he didn't think that way, though. He never even considered the fact that he had to provide money. It just wasn't in his DNA or whatever. He had 5 children altogether, and it never occurred to him that he would be responsible financially for any of them. And I'm not saying that negatively about him. It's just who he was. He kind of wasn't of this world. Physical things of this world. So here he is, just before he got sick. And he was a very big, robust person. And afterwards, it's the reverse of before and after. This is before, this is after. They actually, the problem, what he suffered from all his life was prednisone. He was severely, had severe reactions, and you have to take prednisone if you have a kidney transplant. He had 3 kidney transplants. The first one lasted 1 day. The second one lasted 10 years, and the third one lasted 10 years.
There you go. Now, okay, thanks.
Because you're on Zoom, it's got to be done.
Thank you. Thank you. That's it, hon.
This is shortly after he got out of the hospital. He was in the hospital in 1970 for 3 months. If you can imagine 3 months in the hospital. Now I think they might send you home they do a kidney transplant in outpatient surgery and send you home the same day. So this is, we went to
You don't
Lama.
want it.
Well, it's just that it's not.
Who's
it's not
talking?
yeah.
So what's wrong with
Dr.
the
La,
little bit
someone is unmuted.
Can hear you.
Oh, it must be Mariam. Sorry, I got it.
Okay. We went to Lama Foundation the summer of 1971. This is Saul and Jonathan Lewis, and they're leveling the dance ground near Murshid's grave. And this is Moineddin taking out the garbage in the rain. That's an after picture. This is a typical, whenever he led dancing or singing or anything, he always had his hand out with his palm up like that. So I just included that and that was his mother and brother. And I don't know why I meant to show that one of him holding his hand out. That was at Lama in 1976. Just before his kidneys completely gave out and he went on dialysis. I don't know what's going to be next. Oh, here he is inspecting the Makbara hut at Lama that they were building. He was so impractical. I once asked him to make me a case for my jewelry, and he made it out of 2x4s. It was. And here he is at Lama. This is the dance ground that has been leveled since their initial efforts. And how much time have I used? Shabda?
About 2 minutes.
2 minutes? I have 2 minutes left?
No, keep going.
Oh, I thought I was done.
Okay, well, whatever you know.
Oh, I've had.
Enjoying.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, he's dressed up going to Frida's birthday party at the Fairmont Hotel, I believe. And here he is with our 2 children. Noah and Noria. Oh, I have to say, my mother asked me once, she said, if Carl hadn't gotten sick, do you think he would have worked? I had to say, no, he wouldn't have. And then she said, another time she turned to me, my daughter was then a teenager, and she said, "Why? How do you think it is your children are so smart? Was their father smart?" She was. I was thinking, well, yes, he was. Here he is with Sam Lewis. He just, from the moment he met him, this is the way he was going to go. I didn't even know we were on a spiritual quest, or that he was, until we met Sam Lewis. And that we saw him one night, and we saw him the next day, and the next day. And even though we lived in Bolinas and he lived in San Francisco, we'd go in 5 days a week. And that's a long drive over the mountains. It's like 2 hours each way. There he is on Nob Hill in his finery. And here's another picture of my daughter and my son. This is his first day of his life, and he's smiling at the camera. It was just extraordinary. And this is when he was a few months old. He grew so fast after he came out that by the time he was 3 months, his head was bigger than mine. And his sister was dressing him up in wigs and things and playing with him like a doll. I think he's about 5 months here. It's just before Moineddin went to Chamonix, which he didn't like at all, but that's another talk. And here he is sitting while he's typing. Moineddin was an excellent poet. And so was his mother. Here we are in Iowa, just before we came out here. And this is and after the sickness, just after he got out of the hospital. I still have that dress. And this is his mother, Marty. She was, as I said, a good poet, but also a bit of a, had a lot of mental problems. She was catatonic a good portion of the time he was growing up. And then when we moved to California, she had divorced his father just then, and she married a man in prison who was younger than Moineddin. And then when that didn't work out, she married another man in prison, and that didn't work out. So she was a character, but an excellent poet. She became a born-again Christian, a Bible-quoting born-again Christian. And that's enough for now. I could go on and on.
Fatima, thank you so much. Thank you. We got a glimpse of
a little of the underbelly of.
Thank you so very much. Yeah, thank you. Let's move right along. Let's go to Alaudin Ottinger.
Oh, there's Basira.
Okay. Hey, let's break up the words just for one quick one. Shri Ram, sing along. Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. That much one more time. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Hari Om. Well, I'll try to get as much into my 5 minutes as I can. My brother Alaudin M., the Sufi choir director, should be here too, but just want to invoke him. This is a sweater. This is Moin's sweater that Maylene gave me when Bodhi and Layla and myself and I don't know, another 50 people, we did 101 Fatihas outside his place, his 51% of his body there at in Maui, and she came out and gave me the sweaters are just invoking, of course, the other 49% down there in what Mariam said in the Southwest Sufi community. But one reason I'm here is that Shabda saw that I taught with Moin's book a lot, The Gift of Life. Let's just drop a couple quick ones in, because I do find him to be, as Fatima said, a phenomenal poet and one-liner. How about this? Everyday life is the proving ground of spiritual experience. Everyday life is the proving ground of spiritual experience. And maybe my favorite one, if you can say such a thing, you can grab your ear if you want to. The question mark is shaped like the ear, indicating that the answer comes through listening. Oh, one more. Three's a charm. Living intensely is not necessarily talking intensely. Yahoo for that. But, you know, I'm a Midwestern boy too. Fatima, I didn't know he's born in Missouri. I remember the Iowa connection. But just a couple of quick slides of when I first met him was in 1978, so just kind of we're a little further down the road from 10 years previous and a little thereafter that people have been speaking about. So he'd come to Kansas City to offer darshan, which was really one of the great spiritual gifts that he had. You know, the idea of spiritual transmission through the glance. You know, I was 21. I'm going to sign up for this thing called darshan. What's that? You know, I'm in the living room waiting, and I'm getting. I said, well, he's got to do this thing to me, so I'm getting as receptive as I can, just totally receptive. And then my name is called, and I go up, and of course, that picture that we've seen where he's got his robe on with his hood is over, you know, and drops it back, and we take hands. He goes, too moony, you know. So it like busted me right off the bat, but I didn't quite get it. So, but I went to Mendocino camp that summer. he was there that summer of '78, and he also offered darshan, and he said, "Oh, you're back for more, huh?" So that stuck with me in that part. What else? He came a couple times for JK's, John Miatkasa's in Kansas City. They were very small then over at our sister Ariella's house, and the Kabir kids and several people who all passed on, were there. And I think there was a time, and maybe Shabda started to mention it, where he was kind of like the go-between between the Sufi order, as it was known then, and the Sufi movement. The two brothers, Hidayat and Vilayat, were kind of using Moineddin as their in-between. And so he was reading these notes between back and forth and him between, and every time he would read a note, he would drop that paper on the floor. Then he'd read another note, and he'd drop it on the floor, and he'd drop it on the floor. And that's just stuck with me so much. There's something so incredibly powerful of the way that he did that. And also, I don't recall all the details, but both the brothers really trusted him, I think, to be a bridge, someone they could really speak with and have a great understanding with. Okay, one more time. That's enough for now. But let's sing one more time. Sing out so I can hear you. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Come say hi as me. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai
Ram Om.
I mean,
Beautiful.
Yeah. Back in the house, Yasmin. Thank you.
Thank you, Alauddin. Thank you. Yeah. It was very powerful, his being that, helping in that triangle between the two brothers. Let's listen to Leilan Bodhi, who had so much time with him in Hawaii.
Well, we were super blessed. We were so blessed, and he really brought Murshid Sam to us. His main focus, as soon as he had read the Gathas to us, he would go on his whole state would change when he talked about Murshid Sam. That was really precious for us.
Yeah, Malik took me over to his home on a Sunday when there started to be work parties where I got to meet Moineddin, and I heard we're going to go see, the head of the Sufi family, and I was ready for this exalted that he was, and he was so regular, I almost missed that it was him. And Shabda said people who knew Moineddin really well. I didn't really know him well. In fact, it took me a while before I even got Moineddin. And I also didn't really feel that he ever really got me, but that's probably because at that time, I don't think I got me. But we'd come over on Sundays or Saturdays and do yard work and help him do house repair. I really got Mei Ling, and I really felt actually really connected to Mei Ling. And in some ways, she was the bridge for me into what was really going on. And when I did really get Moineddin was when he came out to one of our big Sufi camps and had darshan. And sitting in front of him, he was transformed, and I was transformed by his clear, empty gaze and presence. And he was very lit up. So there's that. He gave us a really weird book about sex for our wedding present.
No, we don't actually. We don't remember it. We just thought, when he gave us as a gift. So I don't know what it was. It wasn't how-tos or anything.
And then we were in New Zealand and heard that he was in the hospital. And then we rushed back to come be with him in the ICU in his last days, and were with him in his last days. And then, as Alauddin said, we're there to bury some part of him in his yard in Haiku, not far from here. So, and I didn't know anything really about his history. Really, I was just meeting Moineddin and didn't know any about everything I've heard. I mean, I knew a lot of what we've shared so far today, but at that time, I didn't really know much about any of it. So, it was interesting to step into it at that point. And then somewhere in there, Moineddin initiated both Leila and I, and yeah, all that, and still. We go by his home every now and then and drop in. There's an avocado tree there and check in, and still loving Moineddin and feeling him here on Maui with us.
He was for me, he was such an encourager and just support, and what he gave me in that way was profoundly important for me stepping up and in more. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we went to Gothis pretty much. I think it was every Thursday night at Solomon's home, and that was a beautiful thing to be in. You know, those of us in this community that showed up to be with Moineddin, and he read the Gothis, and we do the Anaya Khan Zikr, and then we would, at the end, he would always have us go by each other in a line, Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum, and then he had to run off to go see Perry Mason, so that's kind of when class usually ended. But Jai Moineddin.
Jai. Oh, what else? Yes, when we went to see him in the hospital, his eyes, all I could say is his eyes were closed, and I didn't know what deep a state he was in. But as we started to speak to him, and we started to recite some of the prayers, and he started having movement in his body. And I think how this translated within the next couple of days was that his I don't know, his skin, what was it? Somehow it was too much stimulation, is what they would say in the hospital. It was too much stimulation for him to have guests, because I think he got really excited and just so joyful that we were there with them. That's my imagination. That's my guess. That's good. That's good. Thank you all for sharing. That was so beautiful to be with each one of you and catching all those pieces again and again.
Thank you, my dears. Thank you. I'm just going to open gallery view. We could, if anyone wanted to share, not long, but 2 minutes. I see Mansour. You want to say anything, Mansour? One of mine's oldest friends. Just unmute, Mansour. You have to unmute. You still have to unmute. There you go.
Oh, I reminded myself today. Can you hear?
Very well. Excellent.
I've forgotten. I wrote this book. I think everybody else did too. This book used to be on my website, and it's called Letters from MOINEDDIN, and the letters came the period when we separated from PIR Vilayat, and when he before and after he was getting kidney transplants. And Moineddin was my oldest friend, dearest friend. And Yasmin forgot to mention that we came to Mentor Garden in my van, and I was with Taj. And that's not important, but I'm grateful to have known Moin. And Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu Moineddin.
Thank you, Mansour. I see Abraham here. Abraham, you want to throw a bone on the
One
the
more
log
thing.
on fire? Oh, good.
One more thing. You forgot to mention, Shabda, when you shouted out to me, that I had donated all my Murshid photo inventory to your Sufi order.
Yeah, to our Sufi order, and maybe all of us could put our palms together and express an extraordinary Yashakur. So now all of the extraordinary photographs that Mansour has gifted them into the Ruhaniyat to protect and preserve and to share with the world. Thank you, Yashakur. Everyone, if you all this, express at least what you're feeling, and that's what I'm feeling.
And I also want to apologize for Yasmin. She approached me just before I was donating for photos of Murshid, and I didn't really have any. I wasn't in the business anymore, and so sorry, Yasmin.
I'm sure it's okay. Okay, Abraham. Let's listen to Abraham.
Thank you.
Abraham.
I had the great joy and honor of also being in the bass section of the Sufi choir with Shabda and Moineddin. And Moineddin's voice was the most beautiful voice I've ever heard in a human being. There are probably some birds that reach it, but his voice was so open and so much heart. I loved it. There's a line, speaking of Moyne as a poet, a line that I quote all the time. He was always so positive and encouraging. He was very, very encouraging to me personally. And I remember the period of right at the end there was so much love in our Sangha. I remember Vakil and Kuan Yin sending out all these messages as we were holding Moyne in his transition. And it was an incredible opening of heart. And just before that, he had sort of taken me in and taken me on and given me a lot of guidance and practice. And one line that I love to quote of his, he said, it shows really his tremendous fana and his attunement to Murshid. He said, well, if Murshid refuses to acknowledge my shortcomings, who am I to celebrate them? And if Murshid insists on recognizing my strengths, who am I to deny them? Yeah. And then one other little piece of history that feels relevant to the whole understanding of Moineddin's life and legacy and his relation to soul work. In 1977, Frida Waterhouse, who Halim and I were very close with, was sitting in our kitchen, and we were talking with her here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and she was saying, I could help Moineddin. I know I could, but he won't reach out to me. I know I could help him, and he won't reach out. And Murshid got into me and said to Frida, here, there's the phone, call him. So she picked up the phone and she called Moineddin, and they made a connection. And when she went back to California, they started to work together, and her work with him was very, very helpful to his own body and spirit. Yeah. I just feel great gratitude to you, Moineddin. You're a pure soul. Fatima talked about how you didn't work, but you worked so hard as a peer, and you were so loving and so caring and so all embracing in how you approached that assignment. I have tremendous gratitude to you for the gift of our lineage that you nourished and sustained all those years. So Ya salamo and assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Abraham. Thank you. Vakil, did you want to say anything?
Thank you. Yes. I'll pick up where we're on the ICU with Moindeen in his last days. He'd been in a coma for 3 days, and there were 2 times a day we were allowed in. And I happened to be the only person with him. And it was in the early evening. And after 3 days in a coma, he saw me there and he opened his eyes and he said, "How is your grandson?" And my grandson had been born shortly before that. And somehow in his coma, he held that awareness that the moment he saw me, he asked the inevitable question. And then soon after, he slipped back into that coma. The other thing I want to do is go back to the beginning of our relationship, which occurred at a Sufi camp in the early 70s, but it wasn't a close connection. And then, as you mentioned, Shabda, earlier, when the Sufi choir came to Seattle in 1975, I was the local liaison for that concert. And during a pause, he came up to me with a yellow envelope and he said, "I don't know much about this, but I thought you should have it." And it turned out it was the Zarat papers that had been passed down for 50 years from Inayat Khan and through others. And so I didn't take initiation because I was already initiated of Pure Vilayat, and he was very adamant, you don't take multiple initiations in his world. So I had to wait for 18 years until I made such a strong connection with Moineddin in Hawaii that I wrote to Pure Vilayat and kind of surrendered my initiation and took initiation with Moineddin at that time and began my soul work apprenticeship. So that's just to say, if you're an initiator or a murid, that sometimes it's not that initial moment or even years later, but the connection exists, and at some point it gets ratified.
Thank you so much, Vakil. I see Najat here, who worked tirelessly as Moine's secretary. I don't know if you want to say anything, Najat.
I really don't have much to contribute today because everybody's other stories have been so fabulous and make my heart patter. I will say, Moineddin was a foodie. He loved going out to lunch, and we did. He loved Chinese food. We would go to this little Chinese place, and and this is during the time he's on dialysis, but he would still order the hot and sour soup because he enjoyed it so much. And there was this deli that we would go to occasionally that made this little sandwich that he loved, that was Italian ham, brie cheese, um, cold sweet butter on a small baguette. That was his favorite sandwich. I don't know if that deli is still there, but we would go out to lunch in between the work that we were doing. I served both as secretary and as dialysis technician when he was on home dialysis. Anyway,
Thank you so much for the way you
that's my story
cared
for
for him.
today. Thank you.
Thank you, dear friends. I know there's many more people I could call on, but I don't want to make this too long. But I thought if you open your ears, open your heart, here we go. Let's listen to Moine.
Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Om. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram.
Hari Om, Hari Om. Yashakur, Pir Moineddin, thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you to all of our presenters. Why don't we all go to gallery view if you're not there already. And may all beings be well. May all beings be happy. So now don't sing yet, but just unmute. Don't sing. Unmute and softly. Here we go. Yapata, Yapata. May the message of God reach far and wide. May the message of God reach far and wide.
Thank you so much.
God bless you all.
Love you. Bye.